us transferring, and we have to monitor temperature en route.
We're not looking at making that a critical care only.
Hmm?
Are they looking at making that
Is blood products a paramedic plus for you guys?
It's on the new paramedic curriculum, that's why I had to do it.
It'll be changing, it'll be reevaluated and changing once I can.
When? I mean, for statewide.
Statewide, it's
Once I can
paramedic
prove,
plus.
so basically, the policy here will change, once I can prove the scope of practice for the critical care, so.
Right now, the state has moved it to the paramedic plus, which means you have to have an add-on to your paramedic licensure to utilize that.
Critical care.
Doesn't have to be critical care, you just have to have the medical direction, the variance in your operational plan, and then the training. So it's called, the state, well, Fred talked about a paramedic plus is what it was.
It was
which
too
is, I thought it was
confusing.
kind of, yeah.
So I just figured once we go through critical care, then all of that will change.
I think that was one of those things that where they had all the asterisks down below, if medical direction,
Yes.
if this,
Yep,
this, and this. And I
If
think that's
all
what-
the stars align and you're there.
Yeah.
You guys do the same, I assume, right?
Yeah, we couldn't initiate it
Right.
as long as it was initiated
Right.
prior to.
15 minutes, you can transfer it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the main thing the state's looking at. If you get a patient you're gonna be doing a transfer with, you don't have to take an RN along, a paramedic should be able to figure out if the patient's actually getting febrile or having an allergic reaction to it. And so most medical direction feels like that's kind of a moot point, that paramedics should be able to do that, so we should be able to do the maintenance of a blood product.
We can do
because
the
of that.
maintenance, but we can't do the initiation, so if they run
Right.
out, you need to know how to stop
See, in the
it.
critical care, I think you can initiate.
You can actually initiate it in
Yes,
critical
you
care,
can
yes.
initiate,
Yep.
but you
Yep.
have to be
That's
a
the
critical care paramedic through the state of Wisconsin, working for a critical care service. So, because when I worked for North, because North is critical care endorsed for the state of Wisconsin, and I'm critical care, I can initiate blood.
That's right.
But if I'm working in Sawyer County, I cannot. I can only
No, that's with
monitor
your
it.
ground too, you can with your ground too, right?
Yes, yes.
Cause I didn't think it was like the chest tube where, yeah, you can, flight medics can initiate chest tubes too, where ground critical care medics cannot.
That's correct.
Yeah, it just says,
Did you?
blood products, maintenance only, and then it says optional
I'm
use
fighting
by
that one,
service,
though,
and
too.
it requires prior written approval, medical director approval, and documentation of additional training.
The doctor put it in, he put it in right here.
Whatever happened to polyheme?
No, right above the.
To what?
Polyheme.
You know, see,
Everybody
it's- when we get
That's
everybody
like
sees
plain
it.
old
All right, so anything else with the blood?
I can't say
Mark has an issue up here he'd like to ask about.
I don't have an answer, but sure.
Well, I was just asking, whatever happened to polyheme? It was a blood byproduct. It was actually made from the hemoglobin of human blood, and there were very few complications with it. And medics were starting. I think it was Colorado, if I remember correctly, was doing field trials on it. And so your trauma patients and whatever that needed blood, they were using this polyheme, and it was basically an expansion.
I want to say the military was using it, and then they had some really poor negative outcomes, and they stopped
That's
using it,
what-
and it went right to
Yep,
blood.
that's exactly
So-
why it
Compared
stopped.
to
Yep.
the soldiers who got blood and blood products in massive amounts, and then the polyheme, and they just went right to the blood, and they stopped
They stopped the
the
study.
study,
The
and
study
they
was,
just went right to blood.
yeah, it was so obvious that they actually stopped the study.
I just remember hearing about it, a few years ago, and it sounded like it was gonna be the next greatest
That,
thing.
I think they just took it out of Thames. One of Thames' recommendation was
Yep.
that they were not going to use it anymore.
Okay.
I know there's other stuff they're out there still looking at and
Mhm.
researching, but it's only in the military right now.
And that's probably what'll happen. Usually, most of our latest trauma stuff is coming out of the military, and then it gets adopted in the pre-hospital setting.
But I had a great, Thames also endorses the quick clot, the chitosan soaked, which, yeah, which I think is funny because with the research, when we did the lit research on it,
Right.
you still have to hold pressure for 5 to 10 minutes.
Right.
Which
So it-
you're supposed to hold pressure for
But
5
I
to 10
feel
minutes.
better, because I'm happy, I'm doing better.
Exactly.
It's like putting oxygen on, may not do the same thing for it, but I feel better, boy. You can-
But so I mean that's even when for the
Stuff,
if people are
stuff,
looking at
some more.
Thames and stuff like that, or some of this quick clot gauze, it's expensive as heck. But when in all reality, pressure is going to do the same. Now, to say that you have a bigger vessel, the chitosan probably will help clot that off faster. But chances of that getting deep enough to clot that off appropriately
thought they were having trouble with those things because they were exothermic too, and they were burning tissue,
The-
destroying some tissue.
That was
The
the big
initial
issue,
ones.
The initial
There's
first
just
generation.
chittisan.
Yep.
Chittisan's a shellfish, so
Right.
so
So if you're allergic to shellfish,
You're screwed.
You may
You're
have
gonna
them
bleed
say-
out your
You're
eye.
dead anyway.
Yeah,
they also
well,
use it in
it's
wine.
It's real. It's a real.
finely ground.
It's in a
shells,
roll,
ain't it?
but it's pretty coarse. When they unroll it, it's pretty coarse stuff. I mean, you really got to stuff it in there, and that was one of their biggest things when they talked about it was getting it in there deep enough, and just I mean they're just literally I mean take a whole roll and just stuff
So
it in a little hole, I mean just as much as they can. It's pretty interesting. But no, the first stuff. What was it? Was it quick clot?
Quick clot.
It was the first in the powder form,
Yeah.
and you're right, that was causing
It was
chemical
very
burns.
exothermic.
Before your face,
Yeah.
get in your eyes, and